All right. Thank you, everyone. Welcome to Elastic Path. We have lots of seats at the front up here, so please don't be shy. We're really happy to see your faces, so come on up. Today, we have attendees from Vancouver Startup Week, and we also have our Elastic Path team here. So if you see any unfamiliar faces, say hi. We are, for those of you who are here as a part of Vancouver Startup Week, I hope that this has been a really great week for you. I hope you've been able to learn a lot and have something to take away from it, and I hope it was fun too. And I want to say thank you for including Elastic Path as a part of your Vancouver Startup Week experience. We're really excited to be hosting an event this week, especially because this is the first time that we're hosting an event in our new home. This is a new office location for us, so thank you for being a part of that with us. Today's presentation, we will be talking to you about how you can unify microservices with hypermedia APIs. This will include an introduction from Peter Lukomskyj, our VP of Product, who will talk about what's happening today in commerce. And then Matt Bishop, our principal architect, will take over and take a deeper technical dive, connecting the dots from microservices to hypermedia APIs. We will leave time for questions at the end, so don't forget any of those good ones that come up over the course of the presentation. And we will, if you have any questions at the end, like I say, we have our Elastic Path team here, so tap them on the shoulder and ask them any questions that you have as well. They're all Elastic Path and e-commerce experts themselves. You can also connect with us on social media and check out our Get Elastic blog to find out more after the presentation. As we do have a lot of great content, I'll hand it over to Peter to get us started. Thank you.
Thank you, Erica. All right, well, welcome everyone who's here for in our office for the first time. As Erica said, this is our first external event that we're holding at the office. We're pretty proud of it. So my role here is really to set the scene for Matt's talk. Matt's going to be the one talking about microservices, linking together commerce APIs, etc. I'm here to talk to you about the context, the industry context. Why is this relevant? And the title that I put up on the screen is really that the commerce of things is about to explode. What we're seeing is a real increased expectation level from consumers with respect to their digital experiences. And those digital experiences more and more involve a commerce transaction. And that's what's driving this, this proliferation of new commerce, essentially touch points and experiences that people are demanding and people are seeing out there. So what I'm going to start with is actually a graph that talks about user experience and complexity. And I'm going to chart the rest of the presentation on this graph. It's essentially saying here that our user experience from a digital commerce, digital experience perspective is continually going up. We are expecting as consumers to have richer and richer user experiences. And really what this graphs is what the complexity of the backend systems that need to be in place to deliver those experiences and how they need to adapt and change as people have these elevated levels of user experiences. So I'll talk you through it, and we all know, obviously, about e-commerce. Let's start with that as a fundamental. E-commerce is buying things online, buying things through mobile, but that's about to change. The whole concept of how you buy, not just whether it's to the two channels of in-store and online, but moving to a much more omni-channel, much more multi-channel type of world. That's coming, and it's coming fast. And connected devices are a big part of what's driving that user experience change. So the world started with web stores, and we're all familiar with going online, shopping in a web store, and the new web experiences that you see these days are definitely better than you've seen in the past. You see content management systems delivering very rich content to users as they shop on web stores, but they still fundamentally are web stores. Web stores can be used to drive additional conversion. It can be used to cross-sell, upsell. I'll give you an example here. One of our customers, Virgin Media in the UK, has basically started introducing a new way of cross-selling and upselling to their customer base through their web store, and they ended up with a significant number of new subscribers, new conversions through this type of process. So web stores are still sort of the fundamental, the stalwart of digital commerce, but they're just the beginning of where we're headed. As far as the next logical point that people interact through, it's the mobile. And transactional capabilities on your mobile device is definitely something that you and I as consumers are coming to expect. We expect to be able to buy things the way we do on a web store, we expect to be able to buy them the same way through our mobiles. And so that's a level of expectation that people are starting to have around transacting. The user experience is better and richer and more improved. The level of complexity, not so much. It's easy enough to connect a bunch of back-end systems that deliver that transactional capability to both a web store and a mobile, although it starts getting a little bit more complicated when you need to accessing the same systems of record, etc. So mobile was sort of that first step along that level of, or that elevated level of complexity that we start seeing in the systems to deliver these user experiences. The interesting thing around mobile is that companies started using them for all sorts of different applications that weren't necessarily traditional B2C commerce applications. So this is actually an interesting example of one of our customers, Johnstone Supply, who is a B2B supplier of plumbing and heating and ventilating parts. Well, what they have is they have large networks of plumbers and HVAC technicians and all kinds of people out in the field who are out repairing people's furnaces and boilers and things like that. What they did was they created a mobile app that allows those technicians to see real-time inventories of parts that are at the nearest location, nearest depot. They created a way of that inventory being available for real-time pickup. So really taking that whole idea of shopping for something, commerce, and making it available to through a B2B type of experience as well. So mobile has really enabled a whole bunch of channels this way as well. So then mobile's kind of becoming a little bit more table stakes as well. People are starting to experiment with things like social commerce, really taking the concept of being able to log in with a profile and having the brands know a lot more about you as a way of personalizing that experience. So whether that's logging in with your social profile to make sure that you're properly tracked through the process, or whether that's being able to obtain deeper and deeper recommendations on the types of products that might be most appropriate for you. Social commerce is also here to stay. Logging in with your social profile, being able to have things recommended to you, and buying through social channels like the shoppable pins in Pinterest, or shopping within Facebook, or shopping within other social environments. So there's a level of complexity that the back-end systems need to support in order to get through that increased level of user experience that people have from a more social commerce experience. But this is where it starts getting really interesting, is when you start thinking about other types of devices. You start thinking a little bit beyond the mobile, beyond the desktop, and the explosion that we see in the market is around the concept of Internet of Things, and really what we call, and some of the analysts are calling, the commerce of things. Business Insider predicts that there will be 24 billion IoT devices installed by 2020 across all markets. So whereas first, retail might have been the beginnings of sort of shoppable or shopping online, maybe B2B, moving there over time. But really all aspects of our lives, all aspects of interaction with government, with business, will be possible through more of a digital experience with the proliferation of IoT devices. And this is where we feel that commerce and digital experience as a whole starts to get really, really interesting. An example here, if you've been to Disneyland, this is an example of a magic band, which is essentially a way of tracking your experience through the Disney park experience. It allows Disney to personalize that experience to you more and more as you go through, you're in theme park experience. So imagine this on a small scale for what IoT and essentially shopping through the Internet of Things could do on a larger global scale. Amazon's making some movements in this direction with their IoT buttons, which essentially you can order these, put them on any product that you consume in the house, and when you touch it, it'll reorder that product for you automatically. So imagine that level of being able to interact with the brand that you consume with, whether that's reordering dishwasher fluid or paper towels or printer cartridges. You could have these little buttons all over your house and just press them whenever you need them. The stuff shows up a couple of days later. So this is the sort of beginnings. These are just sort of the early days of the IoT-enabled commerce universe that we're all going to be living in. Another interesting example we see here is a fridge by Samsung. Now what this fridge does is it helps you create your shopping list by having in-fridge cameras. So it sees what you've got, it sees what you usually have, and it helps you develop that shopping list. So another great example of the beginnings of people experimenting with the sort of commerce of things. Staples has done a great job with this as well, with their office supply ordering systems. Again, it's about making the consumption of these goods and the reordering of these goods seamless. Interesting story, Johnny Walker uses an authenticity sort of label with their products as well. It's a way of certifying that their product is authentic. They embed, I think it's some sort of tag within the label. When you bring your mobile next to the bottle, it authenticates that you are the owner of that bottle and that you can consume it, and that it is an authentic bottle. And it takes you through a bit of a digital experience associated with the consumption of the product as well through some content delivery. So by 2018, predicting that more than 50% of commerce sites will need a number of different technologies to deliver these types of experiences, and that's where a company like ElasticPath comes in, and we look at this sort of explosion of complexity in all the systems that need to be in place to deliver that commerce experience, and we basically work with our partners and work on our own technology to make sure that we can deliver an increased level of user experience without delivering that, without requiring that increased level of complexity in the systems. So it's not a simple problem. There are a number of legacy systems that need to be included in the ecosystems that deliver these experiences, and consumers' expectations just keep getting higher and higher and higher. So what we see really is this explosion in the complexity in order to deliver what consumers are demanding. So the question we ask is, of our customers and of our partners is, the commerce of things is coming, and the question we ask is, are you ready? Because it's not about just web anymore. It's not about mobile. Mobile is a very, very important part of it. It's what we kind of call the digital identity for an individual. It's what you're most closely tied to as an identity provider, or as your identity. And it brokers information for other systems. But when you look at wearables, they're soon going to become their own identity as well. Right now, they're an accessory to the mobile, but they're going to start becoming their own identity. Obviously, the social aspects bring in your online identity into that bigger picture to allow brands to further personalize for you. And then imagine sort of the end of days for the traditional point of sale terminal. Today, yes, all it does is it captures payment information and transacts. But why does that thing even need to exist when you look at the way that we can deliver e-commerce? And then ultimately, there's still a very important channel for many brands is the customer service rep. In many industries, like let's say the financial services industry, you still need to speak with somebody in order to get some sort of consent for a transaction. Maybe in the telco industry, you need to have individuals order some physical goods as well as digital goods, schedule a physical connection, et cetera. And a lot of companies still use a customer service rep a fair bit for an upsell and cross-sell in their transaction. So still a very important kind of commerce touch point. And then you really start looking at the sort of possibilities that the connected car with recommendations based on location awareness brings into the picture. You start looking at the connected home, which really sees who you are when you're there and is able to bring you what you need when you want it. You start bringing all those things into the picture, you start really seeing what the future of commerce could look like. So Matt's going to go into this in just a minute, but at a very high level, what you start seeing is all these front-end sort of consumption channels at the top of this picture. And what you see at the bottom are a bunch of words that represent all those back-end systems which actually need to be accessed in some way or another in order to deliver that user experience up at the top. So you see things like a billing management system, a fulfillment system, a pricing engine. Those are all big legacy systems that need to be part of the picture when the user experience is designed. What a lot of companies will do is they'll first look at, well, what's that sort of sexy, cool user experience that I can provide my customers through those channels? So they'll invest in something like a sophisticated marketing system, a content delivery system, content management system. It'll provide the content, it'll bring in recommendations, it'll bring in analytics, it'll bring in all the types of cool marketing tools to deliver that content to those various touch points. But in order to make those touch points really effective and make them points of transaction, you need a sophisticated commerce system as well. And this is actually what we do here at Elastic Path, is we build a sophisticated commerce, essentially backbone that is much more than just an add to cart button. Some people think commerce, that's just the add to cart button. But there's the complexity of the pricing, the merchandising, managing the catalog, all the other things that go into delivering that overall commerce experience. So what we also add and build as part of our product is a framework for integrating into all those messy back-end systems. And then where Matt's really going to get into with the depth of his talk is around how we provide something called the Cortex API. The Cortex API really is that secret sauce that allows those front-end experiences to access commerce and all those back-end systems through an abstraction layer, through a layer that allows those resources to be accessed by abstracting all the complexity that is actually present in those areas. So it's a way of building flexibility into that whole system, and it's actually that secret sauce that enables customers, or our customers, to continue delivering these more and more complex user experiences, even though the backend systems are very, very complex and have a lot of legacy to them. So I'm going to throw it over to Matt. I think this was your first slide, which was really how does Cortex work? How do the resources get presented up into the front end systems? So we'll have to switch laptops here. Give us a second.